All right, welcome everyone. My name is Martin, and today we will be discussing a topic that has been making waves in the news, microplastics in seafood. And to help us understand and unpack this complex issue, we have invited two amazing experts, Ryan and Isabel, to share their views on this article and teach us what we, as consumers, can do to protect ourselves from the microplastics in our seafood. So let's begin with the basics. Can you guys explain what exactly are microplastics?
Hello, Martin. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a great honor. Well, so to begin with, microplastics are basically tiny particles of plastic, which are under half a centimeter in size. This is a relatively new term introduced only recently in the mid 2000s. They were first reported in the 1970s, and today they are widely detected in our environment. So basically, they're just really tiny plastics.
Oh, wow. So how did these plastic particles end up in our environment?
So, microplastics can come from a variety of sources, such as plastic waste breaking down or industrial runoffs entering our oceans. But one surprising source is from our laundry. Do you know that whenever we wash textiles made from synthetic fibers, close to 2,000 microplastic fibers end up being released per wash?
And to add on, and to add on to that, a staggering 14 million tons of plastic waste enter the ocean every year. That is exactly how easily these plastic particles can end up in our environment.
There is a lot of microplastics being created by us. How then do they end up in our seafood?
So when these particles are distributed by force such as wind, river, or ocean currents, they end up being widespread in our marine environment. And since they're like so tiny, small animals can mistake them for like planktons and consume them. So allowing these contaminants to enter the marine food chain.
Yes, so basically, these microplastics look like plankton, and many small fishes eat this plankton, which they then incorporate these microplastics into their tissue. Then larger fish come by and eat the smaller ones. So then they get the microplastics, and it just keeps going.
Oh my goodness. Is there any research that shows just how much plastic there is in our seafood products?
Ah, yes. There's the article that we are discussing today reference a study that was just published like around last year, December. So researchers examined the seafood from like different levels of the food web and collected samples from various sources, like including supermarkets and also research vessels.
Yes, and the scary thing was that they found close to 2,000 microplastic contaminants, which were discovered in almost all the 182 seafood samples.
Wait, so what exactly were the species included in this study?
So the study only sampled six economically and culturally important species to Oregon. They found that pink shrimp, as their filter feeders, contain the most plastic contaminants in their tissue. On the other hand, Chinook salmon had the lowest concentration of plastic particles.
Yes, and what is even more interesting was that they found that these plastic contaminants, right? They found them in the tissues like muscles. And this means that the ingested particles can move from the gut and get incorporated into the tissue.
That's concerning. But why is it often advised that we eat less tuna to avoid mercury poisoning? Shouldn't it be the same for microplastics where the larger fish are riskier to consume?
So, what you are describing is a natural process known as bioaccumulation. Usually, predators have to consume, let's say, 10 kilograms of prey to grow by 1 kilogram. This causes contaminants to be more concentrated further up the food chain.
Exactly. However, the concept of bioaccumulation contradicts the finding of this study. This could possibly suggest that the mechanism of which microplastic accumulate in the fish differs from other pollutants. Either that or there could be a few flaws in the findings due to the limited species sample.
Oh, yes, and also do take note that this study was carried out in Oregon and its findings might not apply to us here. Maybe the results of this study would be more complete if there were more types of fishes and more types of fish were sampled at different parts of the world.
Oh, yeah. But also, the one good thing that they did was that they sampled species from different levels of the food chain also. So these kinds of give us a better picture on how widespread these microplastics are in the food web.
I agree. Future studies should also take this into account when examining microplastics in our seafood.
Okay, then, are there any potential health impacts on us if we consume microplastics in the long run?
There have been studies which found microplastics in breast milk and even in infants' first stool, which is really scary if you think about it. They also found that there is a difference in bacterial microbiota of groups with microplastic and those without in their milk.
Yeah, and the microplastics are also linked to other health risks. For example, a recent study found microplastics in carotid arteries plaque, and other people with these plastics had a 4.5 times higher risk of having a heart attack, stroke, or even death over a 34-month period. And then also another study, they also found that people with the inflammatory bowel disease or IBD had a higher concentration of microplastic in their feces, and the level correlates with the severity of the disease.
Wow, that's so scary. So, microplastics could potentially affect our cardiovascular health and digestive systems.
Exactly. And while these studies have not yet proven a causal link, they do suggest that microplastics could be contributing to inflammation and other health issues. For example, the jagged edges of microplastics could damage tissues, and the chemicals in plastics might disrupt our immune system or gut microbiome.
Yikes, that's a lot of side effects. So then, should I stay away from consuming all seafood to protect myself?
Oh, no. It's not that. That's not necessary. Something which I felt that the article could have done better was mentioning that there was a lack of comprehensive research to show a clear negative long-term impact to human health. Hence, there's really no need to avoid eating any fish as long as they are consumed in moderation.
I agree. Despite that, knowing the article did well, something the article did well was letting us know that washing our seafood prior to cooking is a good practice. This is because it effectively removes any microplastics added on the surface during the processing of our food.
All right, so I was just wondering, would there then be a difference if the fish was farmed instead of wild caught?
Well, not really. The microplastics can also be found in farmed fish. So a study done in 2020, if I'm not wrong, by a Norwegian research center, they compared 20 fish, 20 farmed fish and 20 wild caught. So which one do you think has more plastics?
Wouldn't it be the wild fish because of their diet, since it's more controlled within fish farms, right?
Aha! But in fact, they found that more than half of the farmed salmon have more microplastics than wild caught.
This is because farm fish are fed with pellets made mostly from fish meal. This ingredient is mainly derived from wild caught fish, meaning that the accumulation of microplastics occurs either way.
Oh, I see. What about the impacts of microplastics on our marine ecosystems?
Well, despite being a new phenomenon, their impact on the marine ecosystem is already very significant. So, for example, microplastic can disrupt the digestive system of marine animals and also reduce their ability to absorb nutrients.
Yes, and it can even leach harmful chemicals into their bodies, causing hormonal and reproductive issues. Over time, this can affect the entire food web and threaten biodiversity and our own food security.
So, as experts, what do you guys think can be done, or what has already been done to tackle this issue?
Well, the researchers are looking into cheap and efficient filter systems for our washing machines and dishwashers. The European Union, Oregon, and Ontario, Canada have passed a bill that will require new washing machines to include filters that trap particles down to 100 micrometers by 2029.
Oh yeah, and also the researchers from the article, right, they were also studying the impact of a catch basin filter that will be installed in stormwater drains in two coastal towns. So they wish to see if they are effective at trapping these microplastics.
Well, knowing that there are laws and regulations in place to help reduce the amount of plastics is reassuring to me. But what can our listeners do to help? Is there anything that you would like to tell them?
Well, you can reduce your use of single-use plastics, recycle, spread the word, and support legislation that reduces plastic pollution.
All right. Well, listeners, don't forget to play your part to reduce microplastics. And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you both for coming here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.